My parents literally bombarded my brother and I with books. We didn't have electricity, so I couldn't watch TV anymore. I would be bored and I read so many books. But actually, what I do now is more of writing poems, verses, and songs. And that inspiration really came through my relationship with God and my Christian faith. I really have found a lot of inspiration, a lot of strength, and that has inspired most of what I've written so far.
Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Writing Inspiration with Markee Books. Here we have our new guest for today. This is Tonna Noamesi. Say hello, Tona.
Hi, everyone.
We're happy to have you here.
Thank you.
So how are you feeling today?
I'm doing great. Actually. What about you?
Oh, I'm fine. Been waiting all day for this call. I wanted to ask you, how long have you been a writer?
Okay, so I usually say that I started to write when I was a child. My very first poem I wrote at the age of 13, and then I started to compile verses, songs, and poems together. I was doing that alongside studying, going to school, and working on a career in medicine.
Oh, wow, that sounds harsh. I mean, medicine is pretty, and you still manage to balance that? Wow.
I'm not in medicine at the moment. I'm still in healthcare, but
Oh, okay.
yes, up until that point.
Okay. That actually answered my next question. I was going to ask you, what do you do other than writing?
Yeah, so I'm currently working in healthcare. I'm also working in research. So that's basically the sector I'm in right now.
Okay. So, what did inspire you to, try to write things? You said you started when you were a child. What did
Yes.
spark that feeling?
To be honest, that feeling was sparked by first and foremost my parents' love for writing and reading. My parents literally they bombarded my brother and I with books. Our house was filled with, they actually bought an encyclopedia for us. They bought so many books for us. That combined with the fact that we didn't have, at a certain point in my life, we didn't have electricity. So I couldn't watch TV anymore. So then I was forced to read books. I would be bored and I read so many books. But actually, what I do now is more of writing poems, verses, and songs. And that inspiration really came through my relationship with God and my Christian faith. And through that, I really have found a lot of inspiration, a lot of strength. And that has inspired most of what I've written so far.
Oh, wow, that's great. I do understand that. My mom is a bookworm too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we used to have books everywhere, but then they got a little bit too expensive, so my mom moved to digital because it was easier.
Yes, I understand that. I can understand
Mhm.
that.
So, do you self-publish or are traditionally published?
Okay, so my first book has been self-published. I did get an offer from a publishing company, but I had to make the decision to self-publish, and that was the best decision at that point. So for now, I'm a self-published author.
Yeah, I can understand. Sometimes you have to make that decision,
Yeah, except,
especially. Hmm?
okay, I'm so sorry. Finish up. I'm
No,
so
no,
sorry about that.
continue.
No, except for the articles I've written in academia, but if we're talking about creative writing, yes, I'm self-published.
Okay. So, do you got inspiration by any other author that you follow?
Right now, I'd say Morgan Olivier she's definitely an inspiration. Dashka Zapata. I don't know if any you know about Dashka Zapata. She's an awesome writer. I kind of connected with her on Quora, and then I've also seen some of her books, and she's an awesome writer. She just has a way of, I don't know, she has a way of speaking to your soul. She has a way of making everything so relatable. It's a height that I hope to attain, as a writer myself. So at the moment, Morgan, Olivier, and then Dashka Zapata, many of the writers that inspire me. Okay, there's also Chimamanda Adichie. I don't know if you've heard about her.
No,
She's
sorry.
also an African writer. She's also been there's been so many, and funny enough, I noticed I'm really, really inspired more by female writers. I don't know why. I just end up being inspired by female writers. I guess maybe because I see a lot of myself in them. And there's a lot more actually, but I just mentioned these few. Yeah,
No, I understand. Sometimes happen. It's mostly because of the style, I will say.
probably.
So how's your writing experience these days? Are you writing continuously or did you stop?
Okay, yes. So throughout the years, I writing has been on and off. I chose quite an involving career. So earlier on in my career, I really didn't write much. So as a child, I wrote a lot. All the way through my teens, I just kept writing. I just kept writing, and then I had to stop for a while because life got really, really stressful. But then, so I'm actually working on a second book right now. So life is still, up and down. Adulting is a lot, but I'm just hoping to get that out by next year. So I write continuously. I just keep putting them together, editing them, making them better, giving them out to editors to edit. So that's what I'm doing right now.
How is your writing routine? Do you outline or do you do another thing?
So I wouldn't really say I have a writing routine. I'm trying to get back into journaling. And then, so sometimes they're my journal entries that I'm able to turn into a verse or something. But as much as possible, I try to journal as much as possible every day, although I hardly meet up with that goal. But yes, as much as possible, I try to do that.
What was the most difficult thing you had to struggle when you started writing your first book?
Yes. So for me, it was a struggle because these were poems that some of which I had written like 20 years ago. I was much younger. And so,
They needed revision?
yes, they did need a lot of revision, but I felt like it was my responsibility to put that out because a lot of the things I wrote, even though I was young, they really still resonated with me as an adult, and I believed strongly they needed to be put out there. So they being some of them being old content and then bringing all that together with the newer content, that was kind of a struggle. So I had to give out to editors, make sure everything was on point. Finding publishers. I did find a publisher. I think the first publishers I reached out to, I did find, but the cost, of course, of publishing was a lot, and so I just had to make that decision to self-publish. I guess the cost was definitely a very big limitation for me.
Yeah. So, how do you feel now since you started writing? Like, how do you feel with yourself?
Yes, I mean, writing is something that I think every one of us needs to do. We all need to do that. It's not really about the perfection of writing. You don't have to come up with a book, but writing really helps to clear your mind. It's a very healthy practice, to write out what you're thinking. And then if you do have the gift of expression, which I believe that I do have, to be able to share it with the world. I believe that writing really has helped me mentally, emotionally, academically, in every aspect of my life. I think writing has helped me become a better person, helps me to know better who I am. It helps me, you come back to what you've written, you look at it, and it helps you understand who you were at that time. You can be, excuse me to say, your own therapist when you're able to read what you've written. And then you can also be able to find out what the world needs. And is this something that the world needs? And then you're able to put it out. I mean, I think writing it's part of the self-growth journey. And I'm very, very happy that even though I did stop writing for a while, I'm glad that I came back to it.
I agree. Actually, some therapists do recommend writing your feelings to deal with them. Me
Yes,
myself
definitely.
were told to do that. So tell me, how long did you take to complete your first book?
In all 20 years, because I kept writing. I just kept putting poems together, verses, songs together. 20, I think it was 20 years, because that was in 2013. I started to write, and I published it last year.
But how much did it take, like, organize everything?
To organize everything took maybe about 6 months.
Oh, that's great. How long is the book? How many pages?
Oh, it's not a very long book. I don't think it's about maybe 60, 70 pages because it's just poems, and I just put Bible verses that resonated with the poems, that inspired the poems. Because like I said, that book especially is really all about my relationship to God. It's titled Oats to Him. So it's really a song from me to God and from Him to me. And it just really highlights my relationship with God. So, yes, it's a very short book, but something that I felt needed to come out.
It's okay. It doesn't matter how long if the message is sent.
Exactly.
Hmm. So, do you have like a story of how you named your book?
Yes, naming my book I think that was also one of the most difficult parts for me. I really didn't know. The first thing I wanted to name the book was Making Him Known because I wanted it to be something that helped to talk about God, and his work and all of that. But I don't know why I just decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Oats to Him was actually a suggestion of somebody that I knew at the time. The person said Oats to Him. Ode is a song. Instead of saying songs to him, then just Oats to Him. And then finally, I ended up with Oats to Him, and it's quite a good title. Yeah.
I get it. So, I know it's a poetry book, but what is the main message that you are like sending with the book?
The importance of having a spiritual journey with God. I know some people might not understand it because not everybody's religious, but it was really just my story, the journey of my life, and how it has been impacted by a supreme being, God. So that's literally the main aim or the main theme of the story, and it's a whole love story really, and it's just me singing my own love song to God.
Yeah. Can you tell us a bit about your most recent book?
So this is my most recent book, but the one I'm working on, is that what you're talking about? So the new book I'm working on, I don't even want to talk about the title.
It's
So
okay.
that's,
You don't need to do spoiling or anything.
yes, no spoilers here. So that second book is really about my own personal and emotional journey. I've had quite a couple of challenging years, recent years. And at a certain point, I realized that I needed to go back into writing. I was surprised because the poems just flowed. On one single day, I was able to put down 15 poems. No, in 3 days, I was able to put down like 15 poems. And so it's a combination of a lot of things, talking about political issues in my country, all the way, all the way to relationship issues, all the way to policy issues such as DEI. It spans a lot, but I see it as an advocacy for disability. I see it as talking about my own growth, showing how life has its ups and its downs, adulting, being how my individuality, you will see a lot of individuality, and I know it would inspire people to understand that you don't have to be like everyone else. Even the title, when it does come out and you see the title, you understand, you realize that you don't have to be like everyone else to thrive. You need to look inside yourself to find strength to be able to go through the journey of life. That's basically what this new book is about. Yeah, basically.
Between the two books, the one you wrote and the one you're writing, which one is like the more fun experience right now for you?
I guess the second one. It's
Usually it's
really,
like that, right?
yeah, I guess so.
So, do you have like any advice you will give to another writers that are starting now?
The advice I would give is to keep going. Sometimes it can be a daunting task when you decide you want to write a book. And sometimes you don't really know where to start. I'm glad, Markee Books reached out to me at a point. So at least all that was support that helped me out. Just keep going. And then some of the mistakes that I have made is you need to understand that this is your baby and you need to put effort into promoting the book, like I'm on this podcast, I'm talking about it, stuff like that. It's something that you have to do. Sometimes writers are people that don't really like the limelight. I also do not like the limelight. But immediately you realize that there is a message on your heart for the world. Suddenly there's that responsibility. You're responsible for making sure there's a reason that that message has been given to you. You need to put yourself out there and make sure that you talk about, your book. It's your baby. So talk about and keep going, put in the effort. That's basically my advice.
That's lovely. So, what's your largest dream or goal you have right now as a writer?
I'd love the reason I write is to inspire people. I think the one thing that will melt my heart is if one day somebody says to me that I read your poem or your verse or your song so and it pulled me out of a dark place and it resonated so much with me and it helped me, to pick myself up and keep going. I think that for me would be the greatest inspiration. That is why I write, so that I can help people, so that I can inspire people, so I can make people want to go on in life and to make it in life. So for me, that is the greatest goal.
I get it. It's beautiful. I get it. So, what's like your top experience you had with a reader? Like a reader say something that you still remember?
Yeah, so I know I have done okay, so one of the I remember people reading my poems and my verses and saying to me, I mean, you're a good writer. I think that's something that every, writer starting out, it's because sometimes you're writing, but you're not sure is what I'm writing making any sense? And so having that early, wow, this is beautiful. I mean, I love your expression. This poem really inspires me. So I know I've had a number of people do say that about my poems, and like I said, that's the goal, to be able to make somebody think twice. Because sometimes there are things that are going on in this, like in my second book, I kind of focus on a lot of that. Sometimes there are things that are going on that people don't pay attention to, you know, and I just want to bring their minds, to shift their minds, and to create a paradigm shift, in the society. And so, yeah, I've had times when people were like, wow, I was so inspired, I was so blessed, hearing your poem. I've had it read, I've actually performed. Sometimes I also do that when I'm able to perform the poems and like spoken word, that kind of way. And then having people say, wow, that really touched me. And that has been a blessing. I've had a number of people say that to me, and that has been beautiful.
Yeah, I get it. So, do you have like a support network with other writers?
Um, I said now, no. I'm trying to do that though. I'm working on that. I'm getting a supportive network because I know that it's something that is very much necessary. Down the years, I was part of poetry.com when it did come up. I was giving poems for poetry.com, reading poems and all of that. But at the moment, poetry.com isn't still on. But I do. I subscribe to some newsletters on writing and all of that. So I do get support through that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have like any advice for fellow writers struggling with services, hiring an editor, printing, publishing, stuff like that?
Yes. I would say the advice I would give to them is let the professionals do their work. You're not a professional. Because that was one thing I really love to do is to design my own covers, pages, and stuff like that. I really do love that. But I've come to realize that it's good to let the professionals do their work. Um, that small fee is going to, catapult your book, to a place would that small fee is not going to seem like that fee is not going to seem like anything at that point. So that's one of the things since I'm learning to let the professionals do their work. Yeah.
How do you handle like the challenges for marketing, etc.?
Yes. So for marketing, I'm still working on that, marketing my first book. One of the biggest roadblocks for me is having the time to go and market my own book. So like you're saying, I am working on getting a more supportive network of people that I can also be accountable to. I do have other writers that I talk to, and they have led me in certain directions. I'm following that path, and so I know that marketing is going to, really boom for my book. So that's something that I'm working on. So what advice would I give? Talk to another writer and somebody who's done what you want to do, and they will definitely show you the way. That's what I would say. That it's always good to talk to another writer. Don't be alone. Do not be isolated. There's so many people out there who are writing, and there's so many resources out there, and you need to make use of them. Resources like Markee Books, you need to make use of them. Yeah.
Thank you. So, what do you think is the greatest challenge you have faced since you became an author?
And marketing. Yes, being able to
Don't we
market the
all?
books. Yeah,
Yeah.
marketing.
Oh, and your greater accomplishment?
Um, I see it as a huge thing that I was able to write this book finally. So for me, that's the greatest, getting it published.
Well, it did took a long time after all.
Yes, yes. I just kept postponing it and finally I did it. So
Yeah, I can imagine, especially when it's so charged of emotional heaviness.
exactly.
So, how do you stay creatively inspired? Do you have like a way to do that?
I like to, for me, I noticed that reading other poems, other verses, listening to spoken word artists, reading poems all the time. Sometimes you're like, wow, you know, that's something that keeps me creatively charged. Also, being able to go out in nature, waterfalls, parks, gardens. I like to frequent these places. They really, really bring a lot of the birth inspiration in me. So, yeah,
Nature was like the mother of poetry on the past, after all.
exactly.
So, do you have an advice for dealing with creative burnouts?
Yes, creative burnout is definitely a thing, writer's block. Um, is there really anything you can do about it?
Actually,
Sometimes
there are things
okay,
to say.
to do, yeah. Okay, for me, what I did, because I'm remembering a point where I really had very bad, like I had very bad writer's block. I took that break. I focused on other things. Yes, I did focus on other things. And then when I felt the pull again, I was ready. I knew I was ready. I did try several times, in between that period, and it never worked. But when I was ready, I was ready. That's the thing. Poetry writing, it's a pull, and sometimes I've been poems that I wrote when I was doing something. There was a poem that I wrote, it's called Dance. And we were at church and we were praising God and we're dancing. And then the inspiration came and it's a pull. It just, you can't fake it. You can't, it's just there. And I had to sit down, get a notebook, a pen, and write that poem down. So when it's there, it's there. And sometimes you need to give yourself a break, be gentle with yourself. That's just what I would say.
Exactly. I agree. Because people always forget that inspiration is everything and everywhere. Even looking at, I don't know, your mother talking with her friend will inspire you to
To
develop
inspire you.
something.
True, true, true.
Everything.
Anything can. Yeah.
Making a cake, even.
Yeah.
Going,
Yes, yes.
walking out, looking at the clouds. How many writers from the old times don't have anecdotes based on that? I mean,
Yeah,
it happens
yeah.
for everything. That's why we need to keep understand that we can just stress ourselves because of that. Because the reality is that it will happen when it needs to be. So, what are your plans for the future? I know you're already writing your second book, but are you planning something else after that?
Yeah, so I'm working, I'm putting some things in the works to find more and more places or events to perform my poetry. I think poetry really comes to life. I know in the times I have performed the poetry, it's really, really come to life. I'm also working on other digital ways of, videos, audios, of bringing my poems to life. I think the old ways of writing a book, yes, it's good to write a book, but sometimes bringing it to life digitally and in a live event is also something that. So I'm exploring all the options that I have, and I believe that in order to stay relevant, you need to move with the times. We're in a digital world right now, so those are the plans that I have for the future.
I get it. So, are you planning like to write another thing other than poems, or do you want to stay as a poem author?
I also do fiction, but I have never published any of my works yet. So that's also something that's in the works. I'm trying to publish some of my stories, short stories, longer stories. It's all those things are in the works. So I'm writing all those things, and in the near future.
Maybe you can start a blog for, a newsletter on your website, and give like short stories from time to time.
Okay, that's something I've really thought of. And so the biggest obstacle, like I said, is time. So as I'm putting myself together career wise, it might take a while for me to be able to have that kind of free time to be able to, do it as much as I want to. Because if there's one thing, there are two things I love to do. One is to write and one is to sing. If I could just live my life doing that, I would. I just love to write and I love to sing. So these are the two things. So I really am working on that.
Do you compose or write songs?
Yes, I do compose songs. Yes, and yeah, I do.
Yeah, I have seen some books where the writer write the full song and the end for the people to know it, stuff like that.
Yeah, many of my poems are actually songs, so I could actually sing them to you. Yeah, so
So, can you tell us like the platforms your book is?
right now my book is on Amazon, so you could just
Only
find my
Amazon?
book on. Yes, right now I'm just working with Amazon, and it's on Amazon right now. I'm working on other platforms, but Amazon is where it's on right now.
You could try Goodreads.
Yes, Goodreads. I've definitely. It's something that's in the works. Definitely.
Excellent. So right now you don't
Yes,
have
yes.
any upcoming event you're already set on going, right?
Not yet, not in the near future. I'm actually work is kind of. I do a lot of travel, so that has kind of pushed me off a bit. But I'm trying to figure that out. I know of an event in Houston that I think my poems might be good for, and so I'm working on that too in the near future.
Right, I get it. So, can you share with us your social media for people that wants to talk to you, etc.?
Yeah, I do. I do have a page on Facebook, so you could check out my page. That's my name, my full name, Tonna Noamesi. I have a page, and it talks about my book. I'm also on X, that's Twitter, and so you could also look for me. And you could find the link to my book also on Twitter. That's my full name, Tonna Noamesi. Also there, yeah. Basically, so there's Twitter, there's Facebook. For now, those are the two social media platforms where I'm promoting my book.
Right. Well, this was another episode of Writing Inspiration with Markee Books. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Tona, for coming today.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate that. Have a lovely rest of the day.
You too. Let's hope that we can talk again in the future. Have a nice day. Bye.
Bye-bye.